G'day legends, the UFC Denver card was a bad card, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I know yesterday we talked about it on the live stream, but let's face it, there was like 5 of us chatting about it. I think that this video is going to be more concise and it is going to reach a wider audience so we can share our opinions on it and have a little bit more of a back and forth conversation. Now, secondly, obviously enjoying something is a subjective experience. If you enjoyed Denver, good for you. But to me, it was a terrible, terrible card, okay? And not just because my Drew Dober pick got his eyebrow smashed off his face. That was one of the highlights of the card, to be honest. That card had 12 fights on it. And out of 12 fights, there were 2 great fights, 1 good one, and 1 good KO. To me, that is a bad fight card. 2 great fights, 1 good one, and 1 KO out of 12 fights. I think it goes to show how much we have been abused by the UFC to sit down and go, oh, wow, 3 out of 12 good fights? That's a great card, guys. That's a great card. How much abuse have we sat through to be like, 3 fights, good. No, good night for the UFC, right? This, like, usually a good card is 12 fights with maybe 3 stinkers on it. 12 fights with maybe 4 stinkers on it, not the other way around. Last night at UFC Denver, what we got served up was raw chicken that was slightly browned on the outside. And we're like, oh, thank God that we're getting some food because we've been abused by the UFC so much. We're happy about getting 2 or 3 good fights over the course of an entire night. Let's break this card down in a little bit more depth, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. The first one, right? You got Evan Elder versus Darius Flowers. It was shit. It was a shit night. Flowers had no cardio at all. And it doesn't matter that it was short notice or not. That is an excuse. The fight was either good or it wasn't. And the fight was not good. Flowers had no cardio by the 3rd minute of the fight. Threw takedowns to nowhere. Just blasted takedowns into the center of the cage to nowhere. Went back to his corner and said that he was exhausted at the end of the first round, which we could all clearly see. And then in the second round, got tapped in the nuts and actively took off more time than he needed to, trying to catch his breath back. And when the crowd started to boo, he pretty much just flipped them off. And doing that got him more tired. So he had to take more time off until eventually the fight just ended because he got choked out or something, whatever. Forgettable experience. But it was a bad fight. Then you have Andre Petroski versus Josh Friend. It was shit. Just wrestling. Didn't chase the finish. Didn't chase the sub. Petrovsky just held position. Now, I'm not saying that just because I hate Andre Petroski. And I do. And good on him for getting the win. Let's be fair. He got the win. Well done. But was it in spectacular fashion? No. Was it in mildly entertaining fashion? No. He just held him down for 15 minutes. Then out comes Laura Santos versus Maria Arapova. So that's a slot on the card taken up. Then you got Montel Jackson. Okay, here we go. Montel Jackson gets a sick KO. And it was a sick KO. Amazing KO. 1-2, down the pipe. Flatline, clean finish. It was 18 seconds into the fight, guys. 18 seconds into the fight. It was a great KO, it was. But at this point, the card has been on for 2 hours. Nothing has happened for 2 hours. And, you know, we were talking about this in chat yesterday, and that's, you know, why I wanted to make this video, because it was a good back and forth in the live stream yesterday. You know, people in chat were saying, oh, so now, Dougie, we're just going to be complaining about KOs. And I'm not complaining about the KO. The KO was fun. It was an awesome highlight. But it was 18 seconds into the fight after all that time. Like, we MMA fans laugh at soccer fans. We laugh at them because we go, oh, you sit there for 90 minutes to watch 1 goal? Give me some action, mate. We sat there for 2 hours to watch a straight 1-2 down the pipe. That's why it's so important to build a good card, and Denver was not a good card. That highlight, you could see it on Instagram. I mean, is this Gen Z rubbing off on me? Is this my attention span? I'm sorry, but I feel like after 2 hours of watching shit, I want a little bit more spice. You know, ask your girlfriend if she's happy with 18 seconds. I bet she isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need a little bit more at this part of the card. So, all right, fine. That happens. Good. Highlight. We're starting to get a little bit of action. Fine. There's a knockout. Great. Then it's back to a wasted slot on the card, right? Jasmine versus Fratina. That happens. Cool. Moving on to our 6th fight of the card. Now, remember this, okay? Fights generally go for about a 30-minute time slot, by the way. You got 10 minutes of walking out. Then you got the fight. Then you've got 5 minutes on the microphone afterwards. We are now arriving at our 6th fight on the card. And it's amazing. It's a great fight, right? Van is doing great. Well, Van's off to a rough start, but then he's doing great in the second round. It looks like he's gonna start to pick up pace on the third round, and then he gets finished in the third. Great, right? And yeah, I picked Van to win and he didn't. All right, sorry, like poor Van, right? And well done, Charles. Great. But it's the 6th fight on the card, and that's our first good fight. So we've had a good fight, but it took us 6 fights to get there. Then we get to Brundage versus Alisson. And did Alisson hit him in the back of the head several times? Yes. But did Brundage also quit like he always does? Yes. Like a soccer player? Yes. Was Brundage looking for a DQ win? Yes. He's horrible. Cut him. He's horrible. It wasn't fun to watch. It was just like we're sitting there watching him be like, oh, am I going to get a DQ win? What is it, DQ? And then by then the doctor comes in and says, he can't fight anyway. So it's a no contest. And Brundage is like, oh, shucks, guys. I wish that could have gone on. No, you don't. That's that classic soccer player action. We knew that it was there. So that's a wasted slot on the card. And then eventually you get Arosa versus C-Rod. Lackluster, boring fight. Forgettable, to be honest, Gabriel Bonfim versus Ange Losa. Here we go. Now, this one to me is the second good fight out of the 3 good ones on the card. And this one is barely fun. It is good, but it is barely fun, right? Went the distance. Good. Really good shots. Really good action. Strong shots landed on both sides. Great to see the get-up attempts from Bonfim. Great to see the takedown attempts from Losa. But no one really got damaged in that fight. The altitude made it so that neither of the 2 fighters could push deep into the fight. By the end of the 3rd round, it had become very clear, or halfway through the 3rd round, it had become very clear that Ange Losa didn't know how to finish the fight. And Gabriel Bonfim didn't have enough air in his lungs to put the power in there to get a finish. So it ended up finishing a little bit lackluster. So like I said, there were 3 good fights on this card, 2 great ones, and this one was the nice. All right, good fight. And then war. Absolute war. The fight that saves the card and, quite frankly, the night. The fight that makes people think that this card was pretty good because this fight happens. Jan Silva versus Drew Dober. An old school bloodbath. And I am 100% happy with it the entire time. It was brilliant. And now I am on board with the fighting nerds, okay? Get the band together because we're getting on the wagon. I'm all in with the fighting nerds. I'm getting a pair of them glasses. I'm in. It's going to be great. Let's enjoy this ride. And thank God that fight was on this card. Then you get Ponzinibbio versus Muslim Salikov. 2 40-year-old men at altitude. The fight played out exactly how it sounds. And Ponzinibbio was kind of robbed. He was. All right, look, it was a close fight. But a close fight that has a clear winner. And close fights have a clear winner. Ponzinibbio won the 1st round. Muslim could have won the 2nd round. Bit up in the air. I would have given it to Ponzinibbio, but whatever. Muslim Salikov could have won the 2nd round. 3rd round. Ponzinibbio, Muslim Salikov, very even striking, and then Ponzinibbio just sort of leans on him and grapples him. But if you read the scoring criteria, in a close fight, if the striking looks similar, you're meant to go to grappling and control time. And that was a close fight. That's about as close as a fight gets. So by my reading of the scoring criteria, you're meant to go to the second thing. And the second thing is grappling and control. And Ponzinibbio had the grappling and control. So I feel like Ponzinibbio won that fight, but really who cares? It wasn't that good of a fight. It was 2 40-year-old men at altitude. Muslim Salikov gets the win. Fine. Then you get the main event. Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez. It kind of sucks. Kind of a boring fight. I watched the whole thing, watched it with the chat. It was boring. Tracy does almost no damage to Rose Namajunas and at the end calls for her Max Holloway moment. And Rose just looks at her like, why? Why would I do that? I've just pieced you up for 25 minutes. No. Like, Rose is just like, no, Tracy, we're not doing that. And then Rose, apparently Rose Namajunas calls for the BMF belt, a female BMF belt. I was talking to the chat while she was having her interview. But if that's true, I mean, Rose Namajunas has been, I'm not against there being a female BMF belt, by the way. I'm not against that. But Rose Namajunas for that belt, I mean, she's been one half of the most boring fight in UFC history. What are we doing here? Why are we pretending that Rose Namajunas is a BMF? So that was it. That was UFC Denver. Sorry, but 2 amazing fights, 1 good one, and an 18-second knockout isn't enough for me to make a 12-fight card any good. It sucked. It was shit. The UFC need to do better. You need a main event and a co-main event on a card to make it good. And that is what happens. That is a clear sign of what happens if there is no good co-main event or main event on a card. Speaking of which, next week is another horrible card under the same circumstances. My subscribers recently bought me an Xbox, and I bought UFC Fight for that Xbox. I put the MMA Guru and MMA Joey into the game, and I will be live streaming during next week's card, and during the main event, I'm going to get those 2 to fight each other in the game. It's going to be great. So if you want to come in and check that out, feel free to come in and check that out, because we saw what happened last night when there is no good main event or co-main event at a UFC card. And next week, guess what? There is no good main event or co-main event at a UFC card. So feel free to come out and bag on the UFC and have a gaming session and watch me play as the MMA Guru versus MMA Joey. It's going to be good fun. Until then, you guys all have a great day. Let me know what you thought about UFC Denver down there in the comments. Was it good? Was it bad? Why did you enjoy it? How many good fights does it need to have to be a good card? Let me know down there in the comments. Until then, I will see you all in the next video.